The crystalline throne room of the Zephyrian Empire stretched before Hector like a cathedral of living light. Bioluminescent pillars pulsed with azure energy, casting dancing shadows across walls that seemed to breathe. He stood there, hands clenched at his sides, facing the most powerful being in 3 galaxies, Queen Velshara, whose chitinous crown reflected starlight from 1,000 conquered worlds. "Human!" The queen's voice resonated through his translator implant, each word carrying the weight of eons. "You will explain yourself now." Hector swallowed hard. Behind the queen, Princess Zyelva, Jessie, as he'd secretly nicknamed her, watched with those massive, opalescent eyes that held depths he could barely comprehend. Her violet carapace shimmered with what he'd learned to recognize as embarrassment. "Your Majesty," Hector began, his voice steadier than he felt. "I mean no disrespect to your daughter." "Disrespect?" The queen rose from her throne, her 6-meter frame unfolding like a nightmare made of pearl and shadow. "My daughter, heir to an empire spanning 400 systems, has chosen you as her mate. You, a human from a backwater planet that hasn't even mastered interstellar travel. And you dare to run?" The royal court erupted in clicking, chittering sounds, Zephyrian laughter. Hector's face burned, but he stood his ground. He'd survived 3 years in the diplomatic corps stationed on Zephyr Prime. He'd learned their customs, their language, their complex social hierarchies. He knew what this moment meant. "I'm not running from her, Your Majesty," Hector said, meeting the queen's gaze despite every instinct screaming at him to look away. "I'm running from what choosing her would mean." Silence fell like a hammer. Even the bioluminescent pillars seemed to dim. "Explain," the queen commanded, her massive form now looming directly over him. Hector glanced at Jessie, at Princess Zyelva. They'd met during a cultural exchange, where she'd been fascinated by his stories of earth, of rain and oceans, and the feeling of grass beneath bare feet. She'd taught him to navigate the quantum markets, to understand the poetry and gravitational harmonics. In another universe, maybe it could have been simple. "Your Majesty, do you know what happens when a human bonds with someone?" Hector's voice carried across the silent throne room. "We're not like your people. We don't mate for strategic alliances or genetic optimization. When we love with everything we are." The queen's mandibles twitched curiosity. "Humans are short-lived," Hector continued, his hands trembling now. "Your daughter will live for 3,000 years. I'll be lucky to see 100. If I accept her, if I let myself love her the way my species loves, I'll give her maybe 70 good years. Then she watch me grow old, watch me wither, watch me die, and she have 29 centuries left to remember it." A sound escaped from Jessie, a high-pitched keen that made Hector's heart clench. "I've seen it," he pressed on, unable to stop now. "I've researched every human Zephyrian bonding in recorded history. There have been 37. Do you know what happened to the Zephyrian partners after their humans died? 12 went into voluntary hibernation. 23 exhibited something your doctors can't cure, psychological deterioration you don't even have a word for. 2 took their own lives." The queen's eyes narrowed. "You claim to care for my daughter by rejecting her?" "I'm trying to save her from me." The words burst from Hector like a dam breaking. "Your Majesty, humans are wonderful at loving and terrible at lasting. We burn bright and fast. We're the mayflies of the galactic community. Princess Zyelva deserves someone who can stand beside her for millennia, not decades. Someone who won't become a wound she carries for the rest of her impossibly long life." He turned to face Jessie directly now, his eyes stinging with moisture. "You showed me the crystal archives," he said softly. "All those memories of your ancestors, preserved for thousands of years. Every moment, every sensation, every emotion perfectly preserved. That's beautiful for joy, but it's torture for grief. You don't forget. You can't forget. And I won't be the reason you spend 3,000 years remembering how to mourn." The throne room remained silent. Hector could hear his own heartbeat, that traitorously rapid human rhythm that measured out his brief existence. "So yes," he said, turning back to the queen. "I'm running. Not because your daughter isn't incredible. Not because I don't—" His voice cracked. don't feel something for her. But because the kindest thing I can do for someone I care about is spare them the pain of watching me disappear like smoke. Queen Velshara stared at him for what felt like an eternity. Then slowly she settled back onto her throne. When she finally spoke, her voice was different, softer, carrying a weight that wasn't anger. "You stupid, self-sacrificing creature," she said. And Hector couldn't tell if it was an insult or something else. "Do you know what we call your species in the old tongue?" "Keareshna." It means the ones who burn. We've watched humanity for centuries, trying to understand how you accomplish so much in such brief lives. She gestured to a viewing screen that materialized in the air, showing images of human achievement, art, music, exploration, sacrifice. Your lives are short, yes, but you live them with an intensity that immortals can barely comprehend. You know, your time is limited, so you make every moment matter. The queen's gaze softened as she looked at her daughter. Perhaps that is exactly what an immortal needs, someone to remind them that time, even infinite time, should not be wasted. Jessie moved forward then, her movements graceful despite her size. She stopped before Hector, close enough that he could see the complex patterns shifting across her carapace. "You think 70 years with you would hurt less than 3,000 years without you?" Her voice, translated through his implant, carried an ache that transcended species. "Hector, I'm already hurt." "I hurt because you're walking away. I hurt because you decided my pain for me." "Jessie, I know I'll outlive you," she interrupted. "I've always known. But humans taught us something about time that we'd forgotten. It's not about duration. It's about depth. I would rather have one human lifetime of real connection than 3 millennia of safe emptiness." Hector felt something breaking inside him, all those careful walls he'd built crumbling. "I'll become a memory," he whispered. "Then be the best memory I ever make," Jessie replied. "Be the light I carry forward. Isn't that what humans do? You leave pieces of yourselves in everyone you touch. Your books, your music, your stories, they echo long after you're gone. Be my echo, Hector. Let me love you for however long we have." The queen watched this exchange with ancient eyes. When she spoke again, her voice carried command. "The human raises a valid concern," she said. "The price of loving a mortal is steep. But I have ruled for 800 years, and I have learned this truth: the relationships that cost us the most are often the ones that matter most." She looked directly at Hector. "If my daughter chooses you, knowing the cost, who are you to deny her that choice? Is that not its own form of arrogance?" Hector stood there, caught between instinct and reason, between protection and patronization. He'd thought he was being noble, sparing her pain. But maybe he was just being afraid. "Your Majesty," he said slowly, "I'm terrified of hurting her." "Good," the queen replied. "That means you understand the weight of what you'd be accepting. Love should be terrifying. It means you have something to lose." She rose from her throne once more. "My daughter is not fragile. She is the heir to an empire. She has been trained to make difficult decisions and live with their consequences. Trust her to know her own mind." Hector looked at Jessie, really looked at her. Behind those alien eyes was someone who'd chosen him, fully aware of what that choice meant. Someone brave enough to face inevitable loss rather than guaranteed emptiness. "I'm still going to die first," he said, his voice rough. "I know," Jessie replied. "So we'd better not waste time." And there, in the throne room of an alien empire, surrounded by beings who would outlive him by millennia, Hector finally stopped running. He stepped forward and took Jessie's clawed hand in his human one. The queen watched them, her expression unreadable. Then she did something that shocked the entire court. She bowed her head, just slightly, in a gesture of respect. "You humans," she said, and now Hector could hear it clearly, not contempt, but wonder. "You live like every moment might be your last because it might be. Perhaps that is why the universe needs you, to remind us immortals what it means to truly be alive." As Hector stood there, hand in hand with someone he'd tried so hard to protect from him, he finally understood. Humanity's gift wasn't just their achievements or their art. It was their willingness to love completely despite, or perhaps because of their mortality. To give everything knowing they'd never get forever, the queen had called his answer breathless. But standing there, accepting something both wonderful and heartbreaking, Hector realized he was the one who couldn't breathe, and for the first time in months that felt exactly right.